You've probably heard from some student about how much homework they have every night. You might have heard from them how much they dislike it, or maybe even how much they feel like they don't need it. Granted, they could just be complaining. But have you ever looked at how much homework they have? I can guarantee you that you rarely hear them talking about how much they like the homework or how beneficial they feel like it is. Now, they could just be complaining, but this definitely isn't ideal, and it's probably not the teacher's intent either. Ideally, what you should be hearing is that they're working on a project that's not only engaging, but helpful to them in mastering the material. Some of you probably hear this and wonder, how bad could it really be? Let me tell you about the typical day as a 9th grader. In my first period class, no one has questions on the homework, even when asked. This is either because they didn't do it or they understood it all the way. But I think we know why they didn't have any questions. After that, we take notes for the rest of the period. Then, in my next class, we have a discussion before I take 4 more periods of notes. After school, I have an hour and a half of robotics before I go home and start on my homework. This night, I have to do 1 vocabulary worksheet, 2 more worksheets, in addition to textbook notes and a translation for my foreign language. I go to bed at 12 o'clock. Another day that week wasn't so typical. Let me tell you about it. In my first period class, we're talking about experimental probability. Instead of taking notes on it, we run an experiment multiple times to determine the probability of an outcome. After that, we talk about the different literary lenses you can view a text from and why we read the Odyssey. Then, we do a discussion, a dissection in my next class. We learn all about the aortic arches and how they're the beginning of hearts, and how the cerebral ganglia is similar to a brain in a worm. Then, we go out into the community and learn about pedestrian-friendly features and why parts of Oak Street look kind of like an alley. Then, I present a project all about Mark Antony. After that, I end the day on a project comparing the French and Russian revolutions. After school that day, I have an hour and a half of robotics before I go home and start on my homework. This night, I get to do a scavenger hunt for biology, in addition to working on a project about nuclear fusion and writing a journal entry comparing what we learned about in world history to real life. Clearly, there's a difference between 2 of these days. While one of them is busy work, the other one, well, it was hands-on, and I learned something. I can still tell you the differences between the leaves that I gathered on that scavenger hunt. What I can't tell you about is what I took notes on the first day, but I think it had something to do with the Calvin cycle. Not only did the stuff that happened on the hands-on and engaging day take less time, but I remembered it. I think this is how we naturally learn. This is a picture of 2 of my younger siblings, Francis and Finn. The one on the right is 5, the one on the left is 3. Most 3-year-olds know over 200 words, and most 5-year-olds know over 2,100 words. She is also an active gymnast and ballerina. This is Freddie. He's 17. He's been taking Latin for 5 years. He does not know 2,100 words in Latin, and to my knowledge, he is not an active gymnast or ballerina. I think this is a clear example of learning from experience and discovery, and how it can be better than learning from rote memorization. Right now, schools give 2 types of homework and classwork, that which is hands-on and engaging, and that which is memorization. Right now, there's a lot more memorization given than hands-on work. This leads to students who not only take more time on their homework, but also don't remember as much. While sometimes memorization is necessary, right now there's an unbalance of it. This imbalance can have numerous negative side effects, including less time to socialize, less time to sleep, and less time to pursue hobbies and activities. While this less time to pursue hobbies and activities might seem like a fair trade-off, many of the colleges are looking for students to pursue hobbies and activities. This amount of ineffective homework can lead to students who drop their hobbies and extracurriculars in order to pursue their homework, and thus jeopardize their chances of getting into their school of choice. The second negative side effect is that which it has on our social lives. Studies by the Wall Street Journal, Mental Floss, and CNBC all show that students are less social now than ever, and many of them blame this on technology. While that may be a culprit, I hypothesize that there's a different reason. I hypothesize that because of homework, students have less time to socialize, and thus they resort to their devices in familiar social scenarios. The third, and perhaps most detrimental impact of this ineffective homework is that which it has on our sleep habits. According to a 2011 Stanford sleep poll, the average senior gets 6.9 hours of sleep per night. That's 2.35 hours less than recommended. And the director of the Yale Pediatric Sleep Center, Craig Canapari, says that homework stresses kids out and is a major cause of sleep deprivation in teens. This sleep deprivation can have numerous negative side effects, which include, but aren't limited to, anxiety, depression, impaired judgment, weight gain, less growth, heart problems, and forgetfulness. Many researchers compare performance while intoxicated to performance while sleep deprived. Sleep deprivation is crippling my generation. I know I might just sound like another kid complaining about homework, but I know there's a better way. And a better way has been proposed by some. The National Education Association says that there should be 10 minutes of homework per grade level per night. For example, first grade would have 10 minutes, second grade would have 20 minutes, and so on. I think that schools should focus on hands-on and engaging learning. By exposing students and teachers to the wonders of hands-on learning, we can spend class time more efficiently and cut down on the time of homework. Suddenly, 90 minutes won't seem that ambitious. Students can learn the concepts behind why the facts are the way they are instead of just the facts. We can have students who leave the high school with a love of learning. There's still hope for all of my younger peers. It is up to us as a society to rethink how we make meaningful learning experiences at school and at home. Thank you.